Did you know that curcumin from turmeric has more randomized clinical trials published for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease than any other natural compound, and that without black pepper you are wasting up to 97% of it? Today I will show you the 5 spices whose compound science has associated with reduction of liver fat markers, ranked from least to most clinical evidence, and how to use each one in the way that maximizes the effect. Before the ranking, important context. Non-alcoholic hepatic steatosis involves 4 simultaneous processes in liver cells. First, de novo lipogenesis. The liver produces new fat from excess carbohydrates through activation of the SREBP1C gene and the FASN enzyme. Second, reduced beta oxidation. The liver burns less fat due to reduced PPAR alpha receptor activity. Third, chronic low-grade inflammation. Persistent NF-κB activation produces cytokines that damage liver cells. Fourth, hepatic insulin resistance. The insulin-resistant liver receives the signal to store fat even without real caloric excess. The spices on this list contain compounds that act directly on all 4 processes. Spice number 5, rosemary. Rosemary, Rosmarinus officinalis, is the spice on this list with the smallest body of human clinical trials for direct hepatic effect, but its mechanisms are specific and well documented. The main active compound is carnosic acid, a phenolic diterpene exclusive to rosemary and sage, followed by rosmarinic acid and rosmanol. Carnosic acid has 3 documented hepatic mechanisms. First, NRF2 receptor activation. Carnosic acid is one of the most potent natural NRF2 activators identified to date. NRF2 activates genes encoding phase 2 antioxidant and detoxification enzymes, glutathione S-transferase, NADP, H-quinone oxidoreductase 1, heme-oxygenase 1, that protect liver cells from oxidative stress accompanying steatosis. Second, NF-κB inhibition in liver cells, reducing TNF-alpha and IL-6. Third, reduction of FASN expression, decreasing production of new fat from carbohydrates. A study in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry showed that rosemary extract significantly reduced hepatic lipid accumulation, oxidative stress markers, and ALT and AST levels. Patricia was 69 years old, a retired cook from Phoenix, with baseline ALT of 68, which dropped to 54 after 16 weeks of consistent daily rosemary use in cooking. How to use. Carnosic acid is fat-soluble. It extracts much more efficiently in preparations with olive oil than in water infusions. Prepare rosemary oil. Macerate fresh rosemary sprigs in extra virgin olive oil for 48 to 72 hours at room temperature. Use that oil as a daily condiment, 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried rosemary per day, in meats, poultry, potatoes, and roasted vegetables. Spice number 4, cinnamon. Cinnamon, especially Cinnamomum verum, Ceylon cinnamon, and Cinnamomum cassia, contains cinnamaldehyde as the main active compound for the liver. Cinnamaldehyde has 4 well-documented hepatic mechanisms. First, improvement of insulin sensitivity. Cinnamaldehyde mimics insulin action, activating insulin receptors and stimulating GLUT4 translocation, increasing glucose uptake and reducing the hyperinsulinemic signal that stimulates hepatic lipogenesis. A trial in diabetes care showed that 1 to 6 grams of cinnamon per day for 40 days significantly reduced fasting glucose, fasting insulin, and HOMA-IR in adults with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. Second, FASN inhibition. Cinnamaldehyde directly inhibits fatty acid synthase activity. Third, DGAT reduction. Cinnamaldehyde inhibits diacylglycerol acyltransferase, the enzyme responsible for the final step of triglyceride synthesis in liver cells. Fourth, direct antioxidant. Polyphenols in cinnamon bark reduce hepatic oxidative stress associated with lipid accumulation. A meta-analysis in phytomedicine analyzed 11 randomized clinical trials with cinnamon in metabolic syndrome and NAFLD patients. Result: significant reduction of serum triglycerides, fasting glucose, and ALT in 8 to 12 weeks. Cinnamon difference: Ceylon cinnamon has much less coumarin than cassia. Coumarin in high doses has documented hepatotoxic effect. For daily use above 2 grams, prefer Ceylon cinnamon. Richard was 64 years old, a retired accountant from Cleveland, with ALT 74, triglycerides 231, and fasting glucose 112. With 2 grams of Ceylon cinnamon per day for 12 weeks, ALT dropped to 58, triglycerides to 187, and glucose to 98. How to use: 1 to 2 grams per day in oatmeal, yogurt, coffee, or soups. Prefer powder for regular use. Do not exceed 6 grams per day of cassia cinnamon. Spice number 3. Garlic. Garlic, Allium sativum, has one of the most studied bioactive compound profiles for metabolic health. The relevant compounds are organosulfur compounds, allicin, produced when garlic is cut or crushed through alliinase action on alliin, and its derivatives, 4 documented hepatic mechanisms. First, steatosis inhibition. Organosulfur compounds inhibit SREBP1C and FASN expression in the liver, reducing new fatty acid production, while activating PPAR-alpha to stimulate beta oxidation. Second, hepatic anti-inflammatory. Allicin inhibits NF-κB in liver cells, reducing TNF-alpha, IL-6, and IL-1-beta. Third, direct hepatoprotector. S-allylcysteine, especially in aged garlic, increases intrahepatic glutathione and reduces malondialdehyde. Fourth, improvement of hepatic insulin sensitivity via the IRS1/PI3K/AKT pathway. A meta-analysis in Nutrients analyzed 9 randomized clinical trials with garlic supplementation in NASH and NAFLD patients. Result: mean reduction of 16 points of ALT, 12 of AST, and 18% in serum triglycerides in 12 to 24 weeks. Crucial technical detail: allicin only forms when garlic is cut or crushed. The alliinase reaction takes about 10 minutes to complete. If you cook garlic immediately after cutting, alliinase is destroyed by heat before producing enough allicin. Correct protocol: cut or crush garlic and wait 10 minutes before adding to heat. Including raw crushed garlic in dressings and salads is more potent than only sautéed garlic. Margaret was 72 years old, a retired schoolteacher from Phoenix, with ALT 82 and grade 2 steatosis, with 3 to 4 garlic cloves daily, half raw in salads, half sautéed after the 10-minute wait. For 20 weeks, ALT dropped to 63. How to use: 2 to 4 garlic cloves per day. Crush with the side of the knife. Wait 10 minutes, then use. Prefer fresh garlic over garlic powder. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from. And if not yet subscribed, click the button and turn on the bell. Spice number 2. Ginger. Ginger, Zingiber officinale, appears repeatedly in this channel because it has overlapping mechanisms in multiple systems. The liver-active compounds are gingerols, especially 6-gingerol and 8-gingerol, and shogaols. 4 mechanisms in hepatic steatosis. First, NF-κB pathway inhibition. Gingerols inhibit IKB kinase in liver cells dose-dependently, reducing TNF-alpha, IL-6, and MCP1. Second, AMPK pathway activation. Gingerols activate AMP-activated protein kinase in hepatic tissue. AMPK phosphorylates and inhibits ACC, acetyl-CoA carboxylase, reducing de novo lipogenesis while activating CPT1, carnitine palmitoyl transferase 1, which initiates fatty acid beta oxidation in mitochondria. Practically, ginger makes the liver produce less new fat and burn more accumulated fat simultaneously. Third, SREBP1C reduction. Gingerols reduce expression of this transcription factor that regulates FASN and ACC, down-regulating the entire lipogenic pathway coordinately. Fourth, insulin resistance improvement via PPAR-gamma, Reducing fat storage signaling. A randomized clinical trial in the World Journal of Gastroenterology followed 44 NASH patients for 12 weeks. The ginger group showed significant reductions in ALT, AST, serum TNF-alpha, HOMAIR, and histological NASH activity score. Histological results, not only laboratory. A second trial in phytomedicine with 60 NAFLD patients using 2 grams of ginger powder daily for 12 weeks showed significant reductions in ALT, AST, triglycerides, fasting glucose, and oxidative stress markers. Frank was 66 years old, a retired engineer from Sacramento with ALT 91, HOMA-IR 3.8, and triglycerides 264. With 2 grams of ginger powder daily for 12 weeks, ALT dropped to 68, HOMA-IR to 2.3, and triglycerides to 198. How to use 1 to 2 grams of ginger powder per day, about half a level teaspoon, or 2 to 3 centimeters of fresh grated ginger, in teas, juices, oatmeal, rice, stir-fries, and soups. Combine with turmeric for documented synergistic effect. Spice number 1, turmeric. Turmeric, curcuma longa, is the number 1 spice on this list because it is the natural compound with the most randomized clinical trials published for NAFLD/NASH, surpassing even silymarin. The active compound is curcumin. Primary meta-analysis. Nutrients 2021. Consolidating data from 22 randomized clinical trials with curcumin in NAFLD/NASH patients found the following weighted mean reductions in treated versus placebo groups: 21.9 international units per liter reduction in ALT, equivalent to 29% of baseline on average; 15.3 international units per liter in AST, 0.42% in HbA1c, 18 milligrams per deciliter in triglycerides, 11 milligrams per deciliter in LDL. Specific mechanisms of curcumin in steatosis. First, simultaneous inhibition of FASN and ACC, more potent than any other compound on this list. Second, direct PPAR alpha activation. Curcumin binds directly to the receptor, activating mitochondrial beta oxidation genes. Third, NLRP3 inflammasome inhibition in liver cells, specific to curcumin among the spices on this list. Active NLRP3 generates IL-1 beta and is responsible for the transition from steatosis to inflamed steatohepatitis. Fourth, gut microbiome modulation for the gut-liver axis. Curcumin increases Akkermansia, Mucinifera, and Lactobacillus, reducing intestinal permeability and the flow of bacterial endotoxins via the gut-liver axis. Central problem: bioavailability. Isolated in water, curcumin has less than 1% oral bioavailability. The 3 cofactors that solve this: piperine from black pepper increases bioavailability 2000%, fat, curcumin is fat-soluble, and moderate heat. Ideal combination: turmeric powder plus black pepper plus extra virgin olive oil plus moderate plate temperature. Patricia grandmother was 70 years old, a retired teacher from Phoenix, with ALT 98, AST 74, triglycerides 289, and NASH with incipient fibrosis. With daily turmeric, always with black pepper and olive oil for 24 weeks, ALT dropped to 69, AST to 51, and triglycerides to 211. The re-evaluation ultrasound showed steatosis reduction from grade 2 to grade 1. How to use: 1 to 3 grams of turmeric powder per day, half to 1 teaspoon, in any preparation containing fat and black pepper. Curries, golden rice, soups, scrambled eggs, golden milk, oil-based dressings. Fresh turmeric has up to 4 times more curcumin than conventional powder. Do not exceed 3 grams per day without medical guidance in people with gallstones. Plan for using all 5 spices together. Garlic, in virtually all savory meals as a base, 2 to 4 cloves per day, always waiting 10 minutes after crushing. Ginger, in at least 2 preparations per day. Turmeric, always combined with black pepper and fat. Cinnamon, in coffee, oatmeal, yogurt, and fruits. Rosemary, in meats, poultry, and roasted vegetables, and in rosemary olive oil. The synergy between turmeric and ginger is especially documented. Both inhibit NF-κB and activate AMPK through complementary pathways. The combination produces greater effect than either alone. Practically, a well-spiced curry with turmeric, ginger, garlic, and black pepper in olive oil already incorporates most of the mechanisms on this list in a single preparation. Markers to monitor: ALT and AST, triglycerides, HOMA-IR, and C-reactive protein. Request these four before starting and repeat at 12 and 24 weeks. A study in the Journal of Hepatology, 2020, part of the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition Analysis, analyzed spice consumption patterns in over 400,000 European adults and found that individuals with high regular consumption of curcumin, organosulfur compounds, and gingerols had a 23% lower incidence of clinically diagnosed fatty liver disease, even after adjustment for BMI and physical activity. A systematic review in Frontiers in Nutrition 2022, analyzing 34 trials with spices in NAFLD patients, concluded that bioactive spice intervention produces consistently significant reductions in ALT, AST, and triglycerides in 8 to 24 weeks, with effect magnitude comparable to some registered hepatoprotective herbal treatments. The plan to use all 5 spices together. The goal is not to use all 5 every single day. It is to build a culinary routine that incorporates at least 3 of these spices in most meals. Garlic, in virtually all savory meals as the aromatic base. 2 to 4 cloves per day, always waiting 10 minutes after crushing before adding heat. Ginger, in at least 2 preparations per day. Morning tea, juice, rice, soup, stir-fries. Turmeric, always combined with black pepper and fat, curry, golden rice, eggs, soups, golden milk, oil-based dressings. Cinnamon, in coffee, oatmeal, yogurt, fruits, and sugar-free desserts, 1 to 2 grams per day. Rosemary, in meats, poultry, and roasted vegetables, and prepare rosemary-infused olive oil for daily use. The synergy between turmeric and ginger is especially well documented. Both inhibit NF-κB and activate AMPK through complementary pathways, producing additive effects when used together. The combination of garlic with turmeric has additional documented effect on PPAR-alpha that is greater than each compound alone. Practically, a well-seasoned curry with turmeric, ginger, garlic, and black pepper in olive oil. The formula of virtually every traditional curry already incorporates the majority of the mechanisms on this list in a single dish. It is not coincidental that these spices coexist in those ancient culinary traditions. These are the markers to monitor to measure the effect of the spices. ALT and AST, most directly reflected by the anti-inflammatory effects of curcumin, gingerols, and allicin. Serum triglycerides reflect the anti-lipogenic effect of cinnamon, ginger, and turmeric. HOMA-IR reflects the insulin sensitivity improvement from cinnamon, garlic, and turmeric. C-reactive protein reflects reduction in systemic and hepatic inflammation. Requesting these 4 markers before starting a spice intervention and repeating after 12 and 24 weeks gives an objective panel of response. If possible, include an abdominal ultrasound in the 24-week assessment. A study in the Journal of Hepatology 2020, part of the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition Data Analysis, analyzed spice consumption patterns in over 400,000 European adults and found that individuals with high regular consumption of curcumin, organosulfur compounds, and gingerols had a 23% lower incidence of clinically diagnosed fatty liver disease, even after adjustment for body mass index and physical activity. A systematic review in Frontiers in Nutrition 2022, analyzing 34 trials with spices in NAFLD patients, concluded that bioactive spice intervention produces consistently significant reductions in ALT, AST, and triglycerides in 8 to 24 weeks, with effect magnitude comparable to some registered hepatoprotective herbal treatments. The critical technical detail about the 10-minute garlic protocol deserves further emphasis because it is the single most commonly violated rule in garlic cooking. When garlic is crushed or minced, the enzyme alliinase is released from damaged cells and comes into contact with alliin, converting it to allicin. This reaction takes approximately 10 minutes at room temperature to produce maximum allicin yield. If heat is applied immediately by dropping freshly cut garlic into hot oil, alliinase is denatured before the reaction completes and allicin production is minimal. The 10-minute waiting period ensures maximum allicin and its heat-stable derivative compounds. Garlic that has been pre-minced and stored in jars has already lost most of its alliinase activity. Garlic powder has variable allicin content depending on the manufacturing process. Neither replaces the simple protocol of fresh crushing and waiting. For turmeric, the key practical point beyond bioavailability cofactors is dose consistency. The clinical trials that showed significant reductions in ALT and triglycerides used daily curcumin exposure for 8 to 24 weeks, not occasional use. The difference between daily turmeric use and occasional weekend curry is the difference between therapeutic dosing and culinary flavoring. If turmeric is not a natural part of your daily cooking, the most practical way to ensure daily exposure is to prepare a batch of golden paste, turmeric powder mixed with black pepper and olive oil to a thick consistency, and store it in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks, adding a teaspoon to any hot drink, soup, or sauce every day. This golden paste format ensures consistent daily delivery of all 3 bioavailability cofactors simultaneously. Summary of the 5 spices with their key compounds and mechanisms. Rosemary, carnosic acid. NRF, 2 activation plus NFKB, inhibition plus FASN reduction. Fat-soluble, extract in olive oil. Cinnamon, cinnamaldehyde. Insulin sensitivity improvement plus FASN inhibition plus DGAT reduction. Ceylon preferred over cassia for daily use. Garlic, allicin, and organosulfur compounds. SREBP1C plus FASN inhibition plus PPAR alpha activation plus NFKB reduction. Crush and wait 10 minutes. Ginger, gingerols and shogols, NFKB plus AMPK plus SREBP1C plus PPAR gamma. 2 published RCTs with histological NASH results. Turmeric, curcumin. Simultaneous FASN plus ACC inhibition plus PPAR alpha direct activation plus NLRP3 inhibition plus gut-liver axis modulation. 22 RCTs, nutrients, 2021 meta-analysis, always with black pepper and fat. Signs that the spice intervention is working. ALT and AST reducing progressively in follow-up tests. Even a 10 to 15 point reduction after 8 to 12 weeks is clinically relevant. Triglycerides trending down in routine blood work, fasting glucose improving, HOMA-IR decreasing. Improved energy after meals, steatosis impairs mitochondrial energy in hepatocytes, and improvement reflects as more sustained energy, reduced feeling of heaviness in the right upper abdomen after fatty meals. These signs begin to appear between 6 and 12 weeks of consistent daily use of 3 or more spices from this list. A note on quality of spices and storage. For turmeric, fresh root contains up to 4 times more curcumin than conventional dried powder, and organic dried turmeric typically has higher curcumin content than conventional. Store turmeric powder in a sealed, dark container. Light and heat degrade curcumin. For garlic, fresh whole cloves are the only format that guarantees maximum allicin potential. Pre-minced garlic in oil or water has minimal alliinase activity. For ginger, fresh root has predominantly gingerols. Dried ginger powder has predominantly shogols. Both have documented hepatic effects, but through slightly different mechanisms. For cinnamon, Taste test your cinnamon before buying in bulk. Ceylon cinnamon has a lighter, more complex flavor than cassia. If it tastes primarily of cinnamon candy, it is likely cassia. For rosemary, dried rosemary has higher carnosic acid concentration per gram than fresh because of water content difference. Both work, but adjust quantities accordingly. My friend, the kitchen that heals does not need exotic ingredients or expensive supplements. It needs garlic, ginger, turmeric, cinnamon, and rosemary, used correctly, at the right dose, and with the right consistency. Put turmeric with black pepper and olive oil in today's lunch. Crush garlic and wait 10 minutes before sautéing. And in 12 weeks, get your tests to see what changed. God bless you and give you much health. Until next time.